He mopped the hospital floors in silence, always avoiding eye contact with the doctors who rushed past him like he was invisible. But when the patient flatlined and no surgeon was available, the old janitor dropped his mop, walked into the OR, and did something that made every nurse freeze in shock. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we begin this powerful story of hidden greatness and quiet heroism, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us make sure they are. At 6 in the morning, when the hospital corridors were still quiet, he was already there. Same old mop in hand, same worn shoes on his feet. William, that's what the staff called him, hadn't been late once in 3 years. He always arrived early for his shift, never complained, did his job, and left. He worked in the cardiac surgery wing, the most critical ward, the most stressful environment. Doctors would rush past him, nurses would hurry to emergency calls, and he would continue cleaning in silence. As if he was invisible, as if he had never existed at all. His hands were aged but steady, his movements slow but purposeful. When he spoke, he used few but effective words. Good morning, good evening, excuse me, that was it. He didn't need more than that. Some nurses talked about him. He's so quiet, doesn't mix with anyone, like he's from another world. But no one really wondered. Everyone had their own work, their own responsibilities. The janitor was just a janitor. That Tuesday night, everything changed. The night shift was going quietly. William was cleaning the 4th floor corridors when suddenly alarms started blaring. Code blue, cardiac arrest. Operating room 3. Nurses ran. The duty doctor rushed. But there was a problem. Dr. Thompson, the on-call cardiac surgeon, couldn't leave another surgery. The other surgeons were out of town. The patient was dying, and no one was available. William stood in the corridor, heard the alarms, listened to the panicked voices. Then he did something no one expected. He set his mop aside and walked toward the operating room. "Stop right there," said Nurse Sarah. "That's restricted. You need to leave." William stopped, turned, and there was a different light in his eyes. "How old is the patient?" he asked. "What's that got to do with anything? Get out. How old?" He repeated, this time more determined. 35. William walked toward the operating room door. Nurse Sarah tried to stop him, but he went to the hand-washing station and began scrubbing his hands with the same precision as surgeons. "What are you doing?" shouted Nurse Emma. "Have you lost your mind?" William turned, looked into the nurse's eyes, and spoke calmly. "I was a cardiac surgeon for 30 years. I can save this patient." The operating room fell silent. The alarms were still blaring, but no one was moving. Nurse Sarah opened her mouth, but no sound came out. William dried his hands and approached the operating table. "Prepare the defibrillator," he said, no hesitation in his voice. 200 joules. "And get me size 10 gloves." The nurses looked at each other. Was this man, who had been sweeping corridors for 3 years, actually? Nurse Sarah had a thought. They had never learned William's full surname. They always just called him William. But now, as he put on the gloves, there was something different in his movements. A surgeon's precision, a master's confidence. His hands weren't shaking. His eyes were determined. "Stand back," William said, and took the defibrillator. He placed the paddles on the patient's chest, exactly where they should be. Clear. The electric shock jolted the patient's body. The monitor still showed a flat line. William remained calm, checked for pulse, looked from another angle. Once more. 250 joules this time. Nurse Emma adjusted the device, her hands trembling. William applied the second shock. This time a weak but regular rhythm appeared on the monitor. "We've got him back," whispered Nurse Sarah. William removed his gloves, took one last look at the monitor, then walked out of the operating room without saying anything. He picked up his mop and continued cleaning where he left off. The next morning when the hospital director arrived, the nurses told him everything. The director examined William's file, but there were only basic details. No medical background, no diploma records, until they found an old photograph in the archives. A hospital magazine from 1985, Surgeon of the Year, Dr. William Manchester under a young doctor's photograph. Same eyes, same determined look, just 40 years younger. Now they knew. The man who had been cleaning their corridors for 3 years was once that hospital's most renowned cardiac surgeon. They never learned why he started working as a janitor. William never explained. But from that day on, something changed in the hospital. Nurses looked at him differently. Doctors greeted him with respect. William continued to act as if nothing had changed. Every morning he came at the same time, worked with the same silence, returned home with the same humility. The only difference was, no one thought he was invisible anymore, because sometimes the greatest heroes hide in the most ordinary disguises. Sometimes the most valuable knowledge is kept in the quietest hearts. And sometimes, to save someone's life, you just need to be in the right place at the right time. William Manchester never spoke about it again. He never boasted, never told the story. He just continued doing his job. Because that's what real heroes do. They serve quietly. They don't wait for applause. So now I ask you, have you ever met someone like William? Someone who seemed ordinary but had an extraordinary past? Share their names in the comments, tell their stories. Because at the human stories, the stories of heroes who serve quietly must not be forgotten. Subscribe, share, and help keep these stories alive. See you in the next story. And remember, next time you see someone working quietly in a hospital, look twice. Because they might be much more than they appear.